All right. Now we'll start with the fifth unit. The fifth unit, first part is long-term finances, where long-term finances are raised through shares, debentures, and term loans. Term loans we refer as long-term loans. In the fourth unit, we were discussing on the short-term finances, like working capital finance, which can be raised through trade credit, accrued expenses, deferred income. All these are the, and then commercial paper. These are all the sources of short-term finance. Now we are seeing the sources of long-term finance. Long-term finance, whenever we say long-term finance, it only refers to shares, debentures, and long-term loans. Okay, so this is what we'll be studying: shares, debentures, and long-term loans raised from the bankers. Now coming to the first part, shares. Shares, whenever we say shares, it refers to the ordinary shares. Ordinary share refers to equity share. The features of equity share is that all equity shareholders have a claim on income, which means whenever company earns profit, the EBIT EPS analysis, bring it to your mind. The first thing that is paid out of the profit is interest, then tax is paid, and after tax is paid, preference dividend is paid, and after preference dividend is paid, whatever is left with the company is called as earnings available for equity shareholders. Out of the earnings available for equity shareholders, dividend is distributed. Therefore, all equity shareholders have a claim on income. Then equity shares also have a claim on assets. Claim on the assets in the sense that if the company closes down its operations, okay, or when the company is liquidated, what happens is the management sells all the assets, okay, and out of the residual income, okay, sale proceeds will be distributed again in the same format, in the same hierarchy, where first interest is paid, then tax any pending to the government will be paid, then preference shareholders will be given a claim on the asset, and if there is any residual proceeds left with the company, that will be distributed to the equity shareholders. So they have a claim on the assets of the company. Equity shares have a right to control. Of course, from the equity shareholders only, directors, board of directors are selected. Therefore, they have the right to control the company. Equity shareholders have voting right. There is a common rule that one share, one vote. So every one equity share has got one voting right. Therefore, voting right is there, which is not for the other type of long-term funds like debenture or for preference share. Okay, and then preemptive right, which means when the company goes for subsequent issues, like first issue is called as initial public offer. After 3 years, when there is another need for a financial need for the company, they will go for another issue to the public, which is called as a follow public offer. First is called as initial public offer, IPO, and after 3 years or after 5 years, if the company goes for subsequent issue of share, that is called as FPO, follow public offer. Many times this follow public offer is sold to the existing shareholders itself. Okay, so existing shareholders, they have the preemptive right, first right to buy the shares of the company, and it is not a compulsion. If they don't want, they can deny buying it. That's why it is called as a preemptive right. Okay, if they don't want, then it goes to the public or to the other shareholder. Limited liability: the liability of a shareholder is limited only to the face value of the share. Suppose the face value of the share is 10 rupees, and if the shareholder has paid it in all installments, at the time of application, at the time of allotment, first call, second call, and if the entire 10 rupees is paid, okay, then he is no more liable to the company. Okay, whatever loss the company may be suffering, whatever emergency financial crisis the company is into, the shareholder need not pay any pie to the company once, or I mean, as long as he has paid the entire face value of the share. Okay, suppose if he has not paid the full face value of the share, he has paid only 8 rupees. Okay, so in the case of emergency or financial crisis, the shareholder has to pay that remaining 2 rupees face value of the share. Okay, so this part we'll just do away. Uh, Advantages and disadvantages of ordinary shares. It's a permanent capital for the company based on which they can borrow further loans or they can raise debentures based on equity only. You know, long term, the liability, solvency ratios refers to debt equity ratio. So based on the equity only, companies give, bankers give loan to the company. Therefore, the share base acts as a basis for borrowing additional loans. Dividend payment discretion of the company. Discretion is own decision. If the company wants to pay dividend, they can pay dividend. If they feel that this year let us hold the dividend, let us keep it as surplus or reserve fund, then they can retain it as a reserve fund. So paying dividend is purely the discretion, the right of the company. So dividend payment discretion. Disadvantages, cost. It's a costly process. Raising a public issue is a costly process. It is risky route. Earnings dilution. So as already stated, whatever profit earned by the company, it is finally distributed to the equity shareholders. So earnings are diluted. Ownership is also diluted. More number of equity shareholder, more ownership. Therefore, the ownership is not concentrated in the hands of few, it gets diluted. Okay, therefore these are all the disadvantages of public issue of equity. Public issue of equity means raising of share capital directly from the public. As per the existing norms, a company with a track record is free to determine the issue price for its shares. Okay, next important thing coming to, concerned with the public issue is underwriting of shares. Appointment of underwriters. Underwriters are the persons, or it can be a financial institution, or it can be a banker. This institution, underwriters are not, don't think it as a person. Underwriter is an institution. These underwriters give an agreement or a guarantee to the company that in case the issue is not subscribed by the public, they will take up the unsubscribed portion from the company. Okay, they give an underwriting that the entire issue of the company is subscribed. Why? Because there is a rule that whenever company goes for public issue, okay, 90% of their issue should be subscribed by the public. If the public does not subscribe for 90% of the issue, then the entire issue gets cancelled. It becomes a failure issue. Okay, and whatever money is being collected so far will have to be returned to the applicants. Okay, and after 3 months or after 6 months, once again company will have to again start the process of issuing the shares. It is a tedious process. Therefore, to avoid this hassles, company go for appointing an underwriter who gives a guarantee that the entire issue will be subscribed by the public. I once again repeat it with an example. It is mandatory. Okay, according to the SEBI rule, it is mandatory that all companies that go for public issue should see to it that 90% of their issue is subscribed. For example, when a company wants to issue shares worth 1 lakh, okay, it is mandatory that 90,000 shares should be subscribed by the public. If the public fails to subscribe, okay, for 90,000 shares, then the issue gets cancelled. Okay, suppose the public has subscribed only for 60,000 of the shares, then the company will have to close the issue. It becomes a failed issue, and then the money, which 60,000 money which the company has received so far, will have to be returned back to the applicants. So to avoid these problems, what the company do is give this task of getting the subscription from the public to the underwriter. Now, underwriter will promote the issue. He will see to it that the public subscribes for the share. Failing which, if the public do not subscribe for the entire share, then the unsold portion, unsubscribed portion will be taken by the underwriter. In our previous example, if the public subscribes only for 60,000 shares, then 40,000 is the unsubscribed portion. So since there is an underwriting agreement, underwriter will take that 40,000 unsubscribed portion in his account. Now that the company gets fully subscribed shares. Okay, so that is what is called as the underwriting, or this is the agreement. Normally it is done by the institutions, financial institutions like ICICI Bank, LIC does this underwriting. Okay, even IDBI takes up this underwriting. So they're all called as the underwriters. What they do is they do this for a commission basis. Okay, so now we'll read the explanation. It is legal obligatory to underwrite a public underwrites issue. In an underwriting, the underwriters, generally banks, financial institutions, brokers, etc., guarantee to buy the shares if the share is not fully subscribed by the public. The agreement may provide for a firm buying by the underwriters. The company has to pay an underwriting commission to the underwriter for their services. Okay. Then there is another type of issue called as private placement. Normally, shares are subscribed to the public. In some cases, companies can also sell their shares to selected investors called as institutional investors. Okay, again, institutional investors refers to financial institutions like ICICI Bank, IDBI Bank, and then LIC, GIC. They all come under financial institutions. Okay, now private placement involves sale of shares by the company to few selected investors who are particularly institutional investors. So the company need not go and locate individual buyers for their share. They can offload their responsibility in a bulk way to institutional investors. So company is relieved. Advantages: size. In a very huge size, the shares can be offloaded to the institutional investors, and cost of flotation is reduced, and speed, it gets quickly done. In the absence of private placement, the company has to wait for the public to subscribe. Okay, and the time will be so much needed for it, whereas in the private placement it can be done quickly. Okay, the next is rights issue of equity share. Rights issue refers to selling of ordinary shares to the existing shareholders of the company. As we have already discussed preemptive right, I'm just moving away. As far as this formula is concerned, just ignore it. Advantages and disadvantages of rights issue: control is maintained within the same shareholders, less flotation cost, issue more likely to be successful because the entire shares are going to be taken by the existing shareholders, so no question of unsubscribed portion. Shareholders lose if fail to exercise their right. Disadvantages, under that we are discussing that it is only the shareholders who is going to lose if they are not going to exercise this right of buying additional shares. Okay, if shareholding is concentrated in hands of financial institution, then within few hands the entire control is concentrated. So you know that if a company's share holding above 51% is in the hands of some other party, then they become the holding company. So all these technical procedural difficulties are there if there is concentration of ownership. So all these to be taken care in case of rights issue. Okay, the next type is preference share. Preference share, as we have already seen, preference share, the most important feature of preference share is that they get preference over the equity shareholder, preference in the time of payment of dividend. before equity shareholders, preference shareholders get the dividend, and the preference dividend is always a fixed percentage, and there is possibility of redemption of preference share. Okay, hope you remember all these problems we have worked out in the class. Okay, only under debenture and preference share we would have worked as redeemable, irredeemable, not under equity, because equity share will not have the option of redemption. Okay, now in what way preference share is similar to ordinary share? Non-payment of dividend does not force company to insolvency. If a company does not pay dividend, it does not mean that they have to close their operation. Okay, and then dividends are not deductible for tax purpose. Okay, only interest paid on debenture is tax deductible, not the preference, because only after interest tax is paid. Okay, only after tax is paid, preference dividend and equity dividend is paid. Therefore, it is not a tax deductible dividend. In some cases, it has no fixed maturity dates. Some preference shares are basically irredeemable preference share, which means they will not have any maturity date. Okay, in a way, preference share is similar to the debenture. Both have fixed rate of return, dividend is fixed, do not share in residual earnings of the company. Okay, debenture holders, they get the first preference. Is similarly preference holders, they also get a priority than the equity shareholder. Equity shareholder only share in the residual earning. Therefore, preference shareholder will not share in the residual earning. Preference shareholders have claim on income and assets prior to the ordinary shareholders. They do not have voting right. Okay, so these are the things. Features of preference share: claim on income and assets of the company. The dividend is fixed. Cumulative dividend in the sense that if in 1 year dividend is not paid, the unpaid dividend can be carried over to the next year, and in the next year 2 years dividend can be paid together. Redemption, which means the preference share can be purchased back or taken back by the company. The company can buy back the preference share. That is what is called as redemption. Sinking fund: to buy back the preference share, company creates a fund called as sinking fund. Every year they add up to the corpus or to the fund, and the total of the corpus after say 10 years or 15 years will be utilized for redeeming the preference share. Okay, so for that purpose most of the companies create a fund called as sinking fund. Okay, call feature: the company normally gives a call feature, that is to sell the shares on a future date or to buy the shares on a future date. Participation feature: the debenture holders, the preference shareholders, they cannot participate in the administration of the company. They do not have the voting rights, and convertibility is there. The preference shareholders have the option of converting the preference share into a equity share on a future date. Advantages and disadvantages of preference share: risk less leverage advantage. There is no risk, but it is a leverage. Fixed interest bearing funds are called as a levered fund. A company that raises a fixed uh, return bearing fund is called as a levered firm. Hope you'll remember all these things which we referred under leverages. Okay, so it is a riskless leverage advantage to the company. And then dividend postponability, as already stated, you can postpone the payment of dividend. Fixed dividend, this is advantageous to the company when they earn huge amount of profit. When the company earns huge profit, they did not share the entire thing with the preference shareholder. Okay, they should only pay the fixed dividend amount. Okay, unlike the equity shareholder. Limited voting right: many times there is no voting right. In rare cases they may be given voting rights. Disadvantages: non-deductibility of dividends. It's not deducted. Tax deduction is not there. Commitment to pay dividend: there is no commitment on the part of the company to pay dividend. Okay, only in the years of profit the dividend is paid up. So that is another disadvantage. Now the next one is debenture. A debenture is a long-term promissory note for raising loan capital. Promissory note refers to a loan promise note, kadan pattiram. Okay, debenture is a long-term promissory note for raising loan capital. The firm promises to pay interest and principal as stipulated. Fixed interest rate, coupon rate is fixed, and they also have to repay the principal. The purchasers of debenture are called debenture holder. They are not called as a owner. They are only called as a creditors of the company, whereas shareholder, equity shareholder is called as the owner of the company, whereas debenture holder is called only as a creditor of the company. An alternative form of debenture in India is a bond. In US it is called as bond. In India we only call it as a debenture. Most public sector companies in India issue bonds, which means debentures. Features of debenture: interest rate is fixed maturity period, okay, or there is at least a maturity period. Redemption: company can buy back the debenture on a future date. So for that purpose they create a sinking fund. Buyback: call option is there, okay, where the debenture holders can sell the shares and company can buy back the shares. Indenture is an agreement is created between the debenture holder and the company, agreement to repay the interest and also the payment, because it is a promissory note, therefore there is an agreement, it is a kind of an agreement. Okay, and security: company whenever they issue debenture to the public, they have to set aside a portion of their asset and earmark it for the purpose of repaying debenture. Okay, so they have to set aside a part of their building or a part of their plant or a part of their mission for the purpose of repaying the debenture. So that asset which is earmarked for debenture is called as a security that is created for repaying the debenture. Many times they appoint a trustee to look over the asset. Okay, yield refers to the return on the debenture. Okay, so at the time of payment or buying back the debenture, they have to pay back the current market price. Claim on interest and income: definitely all debenture holders have the right to claim on the income. First payment is given to the debenture holder. Out of the profit, first is interest, and then in the case company winds up or closes and when the assets are sold off, first the debenture holders are repaid out of the assets. Okay, these are the types of debenture: non-convertible debenture, fully convertible debenture, partly convertible debenture, where debenture can be converted into equity share on a future date. Okay, after 10 years the share can be, instead of the company paying the principal amount, they can convert the amount into equity share. Okay, so for the 10 years or for the maturity, till the maturity period, the debenture holder will be getting interest, and at the time of maturity, what happens is the debenture will be converted into equity share. So that is called as fully convertible debenture. Non-convertible debenture is the debenture remains debenture till the end. Okay, no chance or no question of converting it into equity share. Partly convertible debenture is at the time of the maturity period and struck of the maturity, part of the debenture will be converted into equity share and the part will be paid in cash. Okay, so these are the types of debenture. Advantages, disadvantage of debenture: less costly, no ownership dilution, fixed payment of interest, reduced real obligation. Okay, disadvantages: obligatory payment, first payment is to be made to the debenture holder, financial risk, cash outflows, money is going out, restricted covenants. Restricted covenants is that there are certain do's and do nots when a company issues debenture. When the company issues debenture, they have to follow certain restrictive agreements. Covenant refers to agreements. These restrictive covenants or restricted covenants we will discuss in the next topic. So at that time you will come to know what is the meaning of restricted covenants. Okay. Now, the last type of long-term finances, long-term term loans or long-term loans. Mostly these long-term loans are raised from bankers. Okay, on the time of maturity. I mean, the long-term loans have certain special features like maturity. When the company goes for a 10-year loan, within 10 years they have to repay. Okay, there is a fixed maturity period. Direct negotiations in terms and conditions of payments can happen. Security, normally when a company goes for bank loan, they have to mortgage or hypothecate a portion of their asset. So there is a security involvement when there is a term loan. And coming to this restrictive covenant, this is what I said, we'll discuss later. Now, whenever companies go for term loans, that is borrowing from the public, from the bankers, there are certain don'ts. They are bound to follow those don'ts. Restrictions are there on the operations of the company. Okay, now let us see what are all the restrictions. Asset related agreements, liability related covenants, cash related covenants, and control related covenants. The first one is asset related covenants. Asset related covenants in the sense that the company cannot do just like that with their assets, especially with the assets they have earmarked as security. They cannot do anything with that security. Suppose when the company borrows loan from the banker and they have mortgaged their asset. Okay, say for example, if they have mortgaged a plant at Srivilliputtur, okay, then that asset cannot be touched by the company. Okay, so they cannot sell the asset, they cannot dispose the asset, or they cannot buy another loan based on that asset. Okay, or they cannot also partly sell that asset. Okay, so it is called as asset related covenant. Then liability related covenant. As far as loans are concerned, further loans are concerned, there are certain covenants, restrictions. Company, whenever they have to go for additional loan, there are certain restrictions. Okay, loan related further borrowings are, restricted by the prime lender. Okay, so loans cannot be just like that borrowed. Or repayment of the loan, whenever company goes for repayment of the loans, maybe this loan or any other loan also should be brought to the notice of the banker who has lent loan to the company. That is called as liability related covenants. So loan related covenants, payment of loan, repayment of loan, getting additional loans, all these are put under restrictions. Cash flow related covenants. Cash flow related covenants is that their spendings. Okay, company spending is also now under the surveillance of the lender or the banker. So the further spending of the company on the capital expenditure, buying of a new machine, buying of a land, buying of any other new property, okay, or payment of director salary, increase in the payment of salary, promoter salary, all these are subject to the approval of the banker who has lent loan to the company. That these decisions may not be related to the loan, but still whenever company makes major decision, cash flow related decisions, that should be brought to the notice of the lender. Okay, so this is one restrictive covenant. And the fourth one is control related covenant. Control related covenant in the sense that control the top management, the board of director appointment. Okay, and the transfer in the board of directors, the responsibility of the board of director, the salary of the board of director, all these are brought under the control of the lending banker. Okay, so these are called as the control related covenants. Okay, then convertibility, the loans may be very rarely converted into equity shares based on the mutual agreement by the lender and the company. Repayment schedule, the date, the tenure, the amount, all these are discussed and decided by both the lender and the company. So these are the important features with reference to long-term loans. Okay, so that's all. These are the four major sources of long-term finance. The first one is share, second is preference share, third is debenture, and the fourth one is long-term loans. Thank you, class.